What was the first currency? Before you reach for your credit card, consider this. For most of human history, the very idea of a wallet was completely impossible. We think of money as something natural, like gravity or the tides. But it is actually a high-concept technology, invented to solve a specific problem. That problem was the double coincidence of wants. Imagine you have a surplus of grain, but you are starving for a new pair of boots. You find a cobbler, but the cobbler doesn't want your grain. He wants firewood. Now you have to find someone who wants grain and has firewood, swap for that, then go back to the cobbler. It is exhausting, inefficient, and slow. For thousands of years, humans relied on barter. But as civilizations grew into cities, bartering became a logistical nightmare. To scale up, we needed a medium of exchange. Something portable, durable, and universally desired. Long before gold coins, we had commodity money. In Mesopotamia, around 3000 BCE, they used shekels. But here is the catch: a shekel wasn't a coin. It was a unit of weight, specifically for barley. 1 shekel equaled roughly 180 grains of barley. It was a standard of value. If you owed a debt, you paid in weight, not in a stamped piece of metal. In other parts of the world, we got creative. In ancient China, they used cowrie shells as currency as early as 1200 BCE. They were perfect. They were small, hard to counterfeit, and beautiful enough to be used as jewelry. They were so effective that they remained in circulation in parts of Africa and Asia for centuries. Elsewhere, people used salt, cattle, or even beaver pelts. In fact, the word salary comes from the Latin word salarium, which refers to the allowance Roman soldiers received to buy salt. However, commodity money had a massive flaw. It was bulky and inconsistent. You cannot easily divide a cow to buy a loaf of bread, and a bag of salt might dissolve in the rain. The real revolution arrived around 600 BCE in a place called Lydia, located in modern-day Turkey. King Alyattes did something that changed the world forever. He took a naturally occurring alloy of gold and silver called electrum, and he stamped it with a standardized lion's head. This was the first official state-minted coin. It guaranteed the weight and the purity of the metal. You no longer had to carry a scale to the market. You just had to trust the lion. This shift transformed the economy. For the first time, wealth could be stored in a pocket. It could be transported across borders. It could be saved for a future generation. This reliability made Lydia the richest kingdom of its time, and the coin model spread like wildfire across the Mediterranean. The Greeks, the Persians, and eventually the Romans took the concept and turned it into an empire. But coins had their own limits. As trade grew, carrying chests of gold became dangerous and heavy. Imagine paying for a fleet of ships with literal tons of metal. You would need an army just to guard your shopping trip. The next leap happened in China during the Tang dynasty, around the 7th century. Merchants started using deposit receipts. They would leave their heavy metal coins with a trusted middleman, who would give them a piece of paper recording how much they had deposited. Eventually, people realized they didn't need the metal at all. They could just trade the paper. The paper represented value. It was the birth of fiat currency. The government saw an opportunity. During the Song dynasty in the 11th century, the state issued the jiaozi. It was the world's first true paper money. It was backed by the government, portable, and infinitely easier to handle than thousands of iron coins. We have come a long way from trading sacks of barley and cowrie shells. We moved from the weight of goods to the stamp of a king, and from the stamp of a king to the promise of a government. Today, we are moving into the digital realm, where money is nothing more than entries in a massive, distributed ledger. But look closely at the history of money. Every transition was met with skepticism. When paper money replaced gold, people panicked. When digital ledgers replaced paper, people questioned the security. We have always struggled to define what makes money valuable. Is it the gold? Is it the grain? Or is it simply the fact that we all agree to believe in it? History tells us that money is not a physical thing. It is a social contract. It is a shared hallucination that allows us to cooperate with strangers on a global scale. Whether it is a shell, a gold lion, or a string of code, money is just a mirror of our trust in one another. So, what happens when that trust shifts? What happens when we move beyond the state-backed currencies of the last millennium? We are currently living through the next chapter of this evolution. Just as the Lydian merchants had to learn to trust a stamped piece of metal, we are learning to navigate a world of decentralized value. The first currency solved the problem of the double coincidence of wants. Our modern challenge might be even harder, maintaining value in a world that is moving faster than any government can track. As we look at the evolution from shells to bits, one thing remains constant. Money is the bridge between human needs and human ingenuity. It will continue to change, because the moment we stop innovating how we trade, we stop growing. What will the next currency be? We aren't just deciding that with technology. We are deciding it with our collective belief. And in that, the history of money is really just a history of us.